So how do you improve your discipline when it comes to medical exam preparation? Now, the first thing to say is we all have discipline. Like, discipline is not something that some people have and some people don't. It's a transferable thing. So we have discipline in certain areas and we don't have discipline in other areas. And it's how can we, rather than how can we develop discipline, how can we bring the discipline from one area to another? Say, for example, you're doing, I don't know, a jigsaw puzzle with your little child. You could spend hours on that and get to the end of it. That is discipline. It's not that you don't have discipline. It's how do you bring it into something that we don't want to do, perhaps, like revise for a medical exam. So the first thing about discipline is you have it. It's just about how can we transfer it into this area to boost our preparation, boost our efficiency, and ultimately get better results in our exams. We're going to cover 4 things. Very briefly, it's all about scheduling and the regularity of it. It's about being accountable to somebody else, things like reward systems, and then thinking forward. And we'll break these 4 things down to see how can you boost your own discipline in this particular field. So let's start with scheduling first. Scheduling is powerful. If you know that you have to, or you're scheduled to do something at a certain time, you're going to be much more disciplined to do it. Why? Because you can let it go from your mind until that point. Say, for example, you say, right, and the regularity of this is important, but I realize it's not always practical in certain situations with families and kids and other things going on in life. But if you can say, for example, look, every day between 8 and 9 p.m. is my revision time, or between 8 and 10 p.m. or between 6 and 7 a.m. is my revision time, and you schedule it, like you have it in your diary, you have an alarm, for example, and that is blocked off time, you're much more likely to sit down at that time because your brain gets wired, and therefore you don't have to be disciplined to sit down and open your book at a random point of the day when you want to do other things. It's just wired, it's going to happen at that point. So it takes less discipline in a way to work in that period because you've already triggered and you've set your brain for that particular schedule. This works even more powerfully if it's the same time every day. Like if it's every day 8 or 9 p.m. Again, you don't need to think about things for the rest of the day. You don't need to think, oh, I wish I could. I need to do some work, but I don't want to. You just can forget all of that until it hits that time, and then your brain will tell you, like, this is work time now. So discipline is built through habit, through regularity. But if you can't do a regular slot, then every day wake up and think, what is the stage, what is the time today that I'm going to do this, and schedule that early, or schedule it the night before, tomorrow between 4 and 5 p.m. or between 4 and 8 p.m, whatever it is, that's my study time. But again, have it as a schedule. Don't kind of go through the day and think, oh, when I feel ready, I'll sit down and do some work, because that's when your discipline will fail you, because there'll be so many other things that your brain's being attracted to that you want to do, so your discipline becomes less for that particular task. But when discipline is there, it's just about how do you channel it into a particular thing, and scheduling and regularity in particular can make discipline seem more. Number 2, rewards. Rewards are powerful. You know, having something, we all know about, or have something at the end of the day or the end of your session that you reward yourself with. It drags you through, doesn't it? So little things are really important. So every time you sit down for a session, you know, discipline is not just about sitting down. It's about when you're in that session, how do you maximize that time that you've put aside as well. So discipline can sometimes be lost halfway through a revision session because your mind goes somewhere else. But rewards can draw you towards the end. So say, for example, whether it's a film you're going to go and see, whether it's going out for dinner, whether it's, going for a walk, whatever it was, spending some time with someone in your family, going to see your friends, have a reward at the end of it so it drags you too. So every time your mind starts to wander in the middle of a session, you remember that reward again, and it kind of drags you right till the end. So then you're going to go away and have this reward without any guilt or any sort of worry about, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, because you've already put the work in. What we often do is we kind of reward first. So we think, okay, I'll go for this walk, I'll go and meet my friend, I'll go and watch a film, and then I'll sit down to do some preparation. But it doesn't work like that, because the reward has already happened. So you don't have to think of another reward. There's only so many things that you can be pulled alongside. So work first, reward later, and it'll just get you through because you're looking forward to that end point, and you feel better when you go there as well. Sometimes if you know you need to do 2 hours of preparation, but you go and do the reward first, you don't enjoy that reward so much because you know you've got to come back, or you feel guilty because you should be doing something else. So rewards are useful. So have little rewards every day that you put at the end of your revision slot or period, so it draws you towards the end and it keeps you going when you're kind of concentrating. Your discipline level goes down in the middle of a session. Number 3, think forward, positive, negative. What do I mean by this? We talk about 2 plus 2. So here we're talking about implications, and positive implications of working and negative implications of working. And the reason you need both is on some days one will work better than the other. So these are more long-term, rewards are more short-term. This is more long-term stuff now. So say, for example, you're preparing for a medical exam. You've got to think of 2 positive implications of passing that exam and 2 negative implications. So positive implications might be things like you can, if you pass this exam in 3 months' time, you can then go into the year above in medical school, or it means you can apply for a certain job that you might want to do, or it means that you can move on to the next level of training, or it means that, you know, something positive is going to happen because of that work that you put in that allows you to get over the line. Now, whenever you kind of start to feel low and think, oh, I can't be bothered with this, and you feel your discipline is lacking, try and remember those 2 positive reasons that are long-term. Things that, you know, the work now is going to pay off later because you can see that it's going to give you some benefit going forward. Often we're just sitting there in the middle of a 3-hour preparation revision session, and we just kind of get a bit bored, a bit dull, and because we're looking short term, like I want to go and do this, I want to go and, you know, grab some to eat, I want to go and watch this film, for example. But that's when your long-term pull comes in, your long-term goals are there, but your positive implications will draw you further and further and further towards that end point. But you've got to have negative implications as well, because positive doesn't always, it's not strong enough always, whereas negative on some days maybe. So what are 2 implications, negative implications, that if I don't pass this exam, why it's going to cause me a problem in the future? So for example, if you don't pass this exam, you can't move to the next stage of your training. If you don't pass this exam, you're going to have to miss out on that job opportunity that you know you need this exam for. If I don't pass this exam, I'm going to have to, you know, spend another year's worth of income on this training, for example. So it's really important to have a couple of negative implications, because on the days that positive ones don't draw you forward, negative ones may will do, because you get triggered, think, you know what, actually fine, that film is not as important as me having to give up another year of my life because I don't pass this exam. So you need those negative implications. We call it 2 plus 2. Have 2 fixed positive things in your mind and 2 fixed negative things in your mind. And when you feel your discipline is lacking, either in order to start an exam preparation session, or in the middle of it when you feel yourself waning a little bit, bring these 2 things back. It can really help. And the 4th thing that can boost discipline is being accountable. If you're accountable to yourself, sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't as well. So being accountable to somebody else can sometimes boost your discipline, because you fear letting that other person down, or you fear looking bad in front of that other person. Now this other person could be, I don't know, a friend or a relative. This is why study groups are so important, because if you're preparing with someone, you almost set yourself targets together, so you want to make sure that you're both on the same track, so that you're almost pulling each other along. So you may say you're working with a partner, for example, for an exam. You may set up a schedule at the beginning of your preparation period and say, look, these are the steps that we need to be by day 1, week 1, month 1, whatever it might be. But you're accountable to somebody else because they're doing the same thing as you. You feel like you need to be getting along that same period, so your discipline increases to make sure you're not falling behind and losing accountability. This might be a relative, a spouse, for example. You tell, you know, they may not know anything about this exam at all, but you may give them even it might be a day-to-day thing. You may say, right, by the end of the day, this is what I need to have achieved. Can you make sure I do that? At the end of the day, ask me a few things about this. I need to be able to tell you. Because you're accountable to someone, you're going to be able to get to that stage better than if you're accountable to yourself. So this could be a day thing, but it could be a week thing, it could be a month thing. You could give them a schedule, say, this is my schedule week by week, this is where I need to be. Please make sure I'm at this point, keep asking me about it, remind me about it. And if I'm doing something else and I haven't, push me to do it a little bit more. Okay, it can get frustrating when family members are telling you to do these things, but being accountable to someone is much more likely to push your discipline through to get you stage by stage by stage and ultimately to a bit where you're feeling a bit better. This accountability could be to someone, it could be your educational supervisor. You know, you give them your plan, for example, like a week by week, this is what I need to have done. I need to have done this many questions or practice this many cases or read this many chapters. But if your supervisor or your consultant or someone like that has your schedule, then again, you're much more likely to have discipline to get those little steps done because you'll feel like you're accountable to somebody else. So it doesn't have to be a friend or a relative or someone you're studying with. It can be something like a supervisor or a trainer or a consultant in your hospital who also understands the exam so that they can almost drag you along and ask you questions about it. And most people are quite helpful, and if you ask them these kind of things, they actually feel quite honoured to be part of this, and maybe it'll help you get through those periods where you feel your discipline is going down. So discipline is something that we all have. If you look at, you know, even in children, they're disciplined. When they like doing something, they get things done. Like, you can't pull that child away if they're disciplined and they're really enjoying it. So discipline is there. It's not like we lose it as we go later in life. It's just that we kind of feel like we don't have discipline and we think, oh, how does that person have so much discipline? We have it as well, but it's about channeling that discipline from something that we don't think about doing and do it very well into something that actually we maybe not want to do, like medical exam preparation, but knowing that I can transfer those skills. But you need a few techniques to help the habit develop. And then once habit develops, discipline seems much easier than when you haven't got the habit in the first place. And things like having schedules and better, so regular schedules can help with your discipline because you're not thinking about things so much. And in the times that you're not working, you're not worried about it. Rewards, like I said, are short-term things. So at the end of this 2 hours, this is what I'm going to allow myself to do. That can pull us to long-term things, thinking forward, too positive, too negative. Again, these are longer-term implications of what can happen if we pass or don't pass this exam. For example, both positive and negative on different days, different effects will happen in terms of which one you think about. And then finally, be accountable to somebody apart from yourself. Again, discipline has to be improved if you're accountable to someone, and you naturally will find yourself getting your efficiency more and more because you're doing much more, because you feel like I need to do it because I've told somebody else. So 4 things that can boost your discipline. You can do it. Your discipline is there inside all of us. Like I said, it's something that you just need to grow, develop, have confidence that, I've got it actually to transfer, but you need some technique sometimes to get it boosted. And then once you have it, like I said, it becomes habit. Hope it's been useful. There's lots more videos like this in terms of improving efficiency and getting your mindset right for exams, so please have a look through the channel to see if they may help you. If you find it useful, please do subscribe. Share this video if you find it useful. Any further queries, just contact me, you know where I am. Otherwise, hashtag can pass, will pass, hashtag I went with Aurora.